in ways, some of those were the characters I had the most fun with and that came the most easily to me. So Sid is probably the one that I heard the most about, and he's this kind of interesting, going back to what we were just talking about when we first started talking about the people that live in Alaska and where they come from, and that you can make assumptions about people. So someone who lives out in the woods, who doesn't interact a lot with people and works as a handler on a guiding business, you wouldn't think would have. So he's actually got his degree and he could be making tons of money doing something completely different, but he's happy with his life and he's a little bit of an eccentric. I've known a lot of people like this. My dad was a little bit like this, but I've known a lot of characters over the years like this that can kind of surprise you with all the things they know, and it can be really fascinating. Oh, excuse me. And I also have Della, who's the owner of the lodge, and she's kind of this big-hearted character. And again, I've known a lot of women like her over the years in Alaska who are very strong, both in spirit and determination, you know. And then Warren is the kind of adopted father of the main character, Arthur, a retired state trooper, and he's a rare case where I actually, right when I started writing him, his voice just came to me fully formed, and I don't really know why, but he was probably my favorite character to write, I think, in ways. He felt very, very real to me, and I felt a lot of sympathy for him. So Birdie is, in her early 20s, single mother, kind of struggling to find her footing in life, I think, and she's working at a waitress at a roadside lodge. She's got her 6-year-old daughter, Emmeline, who is, as a lot of kids who grow up spending a lot of times with other grown-ups, around grown-ups, less around children, she's a little precocious and probably the closest to an autobiographical character that I've ever written. And Birdie falls in love with this kind of reclusive, strange man named Arthur, who, I don't think it's giving too much away to say that he's got some mysterious magical things going on. And it's a little bit inspired by aspects of my childhood. So, my dad and mom moved to Alaska when I was about 3 or 4. And in ways, it was this kind of situation where we had neighbors, but we were a pretty isolated in ways, little, person family. And I think that there's a lot of good that can come out of that, but also it can also be kind of intense and dangerous. And so I tried to kind of bring that feeling in when you have one person who's a little unpredictable, and potentially violent, frankly. It can be a very, especially I think for a child, it's a very frightening situation. So I tried to kind of build in both the good of my childhood, the things that I learned from my parents and that I enjoyed so much about being a little kid in Alaska's wilderness, but also that it is a kind of a dangerous situation, when you've got someone who's a little unpredictable like that. As writers, we're sort of trying to understand aspects of our childhood or of ourselves or our families or the world, and it can be hard, and I think that my advice for myself looking back would to be just give yourself the time that you need. I was fortunate enough to have both my editor in the US and the UK were both very supportive. I was on contract, but they gave me the time to get into that, to kind of enter into that more difficult material that I had to do. And it took me a while. And I just think we just have to be patient with ourselves, work hard, but give yourself the freedom to know that it might evolve. Your relationship with the book might evolve, and you might be able to get to new material you didn't know you were going to be able to get to. This title, Blackwoods Blue Sky, which came from a Proust quote. And the funny thing about it is the cover was already designed. And if you see them, the cover and the title go so beautifully together. And I get no credit for any of it. And it just worked out brilliantly. And I'm very, very grateful for that.